There we go. So I had a little excitement on my last flight up to Dallas. Got 2/3 of the way there, and my engine started surging on me. Yeah, so discretion was the better part of valor. I turned around and hoofed it back to my home airport.
So what was it?
Don't know yet. This was just yesterday morning. So got back. It was my intake temperature was spiking, and my RPMs were dropping just like randomly. And then like the last 30 minutes of the flight, it was fine. So again, no idea. Mechanics looking at it. Hopefully he'll have an update for me on Monday.
I just got my mags overhauled. $2,000. They had to gut the one because it was wore out. I'd been noticing that I was getting like 40, 50 RPM difference between the two mags.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't as fast as it used to be. So, and they were 550 hours in, so it was time to yank them and took them over there. So I picked those up on Tuesday, and hopefully by the end of the week, my annual's done. Are you going to Oshkosh?
No.
Well, I'm going to meet Jason Morrison up there. His 401.
Mm-hmm.
When the rudder got damaged, it wasn't just the trim tab. It ripped all of the hinge joints out of the rudder.
Oh, that's exciting.
And I just happen to have one that I'm going to give to him at Oshkosh.
There you go.
So he's excited.
Very cool.
Yeah. I can't wait till it gets run, but
in
he's
your
running
boat
into a dilemma. He, he was going to demate the wing and send it off for repair somewhere. And he finally talked to somebody that was in the know. He says, you don't want to demate it. You can either demate it and then take the fuselage with the wing, or ferry it to someplace, because they have to have the fuselage to keep the wing in jig while they do these updates to the wing.
That makes sense. Last thing you want to do, get it repaired, bring it back, and it wouldn't fit on your fuselage.
Exactly. But then he's got another problem. Everybody around his airport says that the FSDO around his area not going to give him a ferry permit. So what do I do?
Yeah.
So I guess it's going to Florida to be repaired once that happens. So
hey, hello everybody. Hey Ed, can you bring me a hat like that to Georgia? Your mic's on.
I'll bring it to you.
You look like the captain of the Love Boat.
No, we're sub captains here. We should each be wearing one.
morning, Ed.
you need shoulder boards.
Casey, you want one? I'll bring you one.
Shoulder boards.
Something at the pond. You got a unique. I mean, besides putting a submarine in a pond, you got to get people to come up and ask questions about it. When they see this, they'll either stay away from you or come up and ask questions.
That's a great idea. We should have like a uniform as RC sub captains. I love your vest that you wear to all the events.
You gotta have patches of all of your bills. That's your rank. That's your prestige.
Yeah, something more exciting than just a t-shirt. Yeah. Oh, there's the Oberon, the long-suffering Oberon. Look at that. Oh, I thought that was a picture of your shop, not just a photo in the background, Steve. Green screened.
You're muted, Steve.
You're muted, Steve.
Do you think that kid will be joining us today, Bob? Alan?
I think last time he emailed, he said that he was going to try. He might be a little late though. What do you think about that? Or what are you and Steve doing for transportation there?
Well, that's what I want to talk to him about. Because as you know, I'm taking a trailer, and I essentially have no issue with him hopping in the co-pilot seat. Okay. I'm just going to say, once he's there, he's going to have to be on his own for hotels and stuff, because I have family. Ed and his wife is going to be staying in the trailer.
Yeah.
I want to work. If he's willing, back and forth, not a problem. But he'll have to make accommodations when he gets there with somebody for hotel access, unless he wants to sleep out out next to it or under it, or in somebody else's trailer.
Bring a sleeping bag. You'd be good. Yeah. In case anybody's wondering, is he what, 18, 19 years old?
Yeah.
I think he's been on here once that I've seen. His name's Alan, and we kind of got together and mentored him a little bit. He's 3D printing. Was it an LA class, I think, or something? And he just bought a cylinder for it. So, and he said he wants to come to Subfest in September. So we're trying to work out logistics to save as many people as much money as possible.
I'm back. Who you talk about sleeping out in a trailer?
Yeah, Ed, I think Ed said he's got his was it Silver Sides? I think he called it. He's going to be sleeping there with his family on site.
Oh, as I was saying before I dropped out, Ed, can you get me one of those hats? Where do you get one? I'd love to have one.
I said, just as I saw you dropped out, I got on Amazon. I'll get you one. I'll bring one for you. Not a problem.
Well, I've got some cigars I'm bringing to you. So, is Dave on here?
No, doesn't look like it. When I emailed him this morning, it didn't sound like he was going to make it.
Okay. Well, Dave, my wife can't go because she started a new job with an attorney's office, and she's not able to go. But for Dave to stay with me at the Subfest, but and he accepted. So if he comes, he can stay with me at the hotel. So.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, well, we'll see if he jumps in. We'll worry about logistics first, and then accommodations.
I see you haven't got your audio fixed yet, Bob. You sound like you're still in a sewer pipe.
Sounds fine to me. I think you're the only one that has a problem with it.
Sounds like you're echoing.
Does anybody else have a problem with my audio?
Sounds like it usually does.
Yeah, see, it's just you.
Yeah.
I can get really close. I can talk right into the mic. Is that better?
It sounds echoey, like you're in an empty room.
Really?
Yeah.
But it's not bad. It's not hard to understand.
It could be caused by the microphone and the speakers are being shared.
Yeah.
By the same device. I tend to wear headphones. So do I sound echoey to you guys?
No.
I shouldn't, because the sound from you guys is contained only between here,
Oh, you know what? You could be right. I could try turning my audio down. There. How does that work?
It didn't sound like it sounds the same.
It also is dependent on the software and, a lot of stuff. Casey's connection, your connection, because you don't sound that bad to me. So it could be lag. It could be a lot of things affecting it.
Oh, I'm just messing with him. It's Bob. I'm just messing with. Everybody's locking. I don't know if it's my internet or what's going on, but everybody's locking up on me.
Yeah, you seem to be locking up in the field.
Yeah, you locked up on us a little bit.
You could tell by his fan. Look at his fan.
Oh yeah, look at that.
He's locked up now.
You know what? I'm gonna try something here. My son's got his gaming headset here. I wonder. I don't know. I'd have to play with it. I don't know.
You know, if you're watching a movie and you pause it and then you catch somebody in a strange face expression.
Wait a minute. What kind of movie are we talking about?
Hey, Salerno, you're on
Yes,
the boat, right?
Yes, I am.
You're getting good reception. What are you at Davis Park or?
Yeah, it's perfect reception.
He's on a barrier beach right now, guys. He must be hooked into a Wi-Fi pretty good.
Well, it's kind of enough chit chat. So I was actually hoping Dave would be on because I wanted him to go through some of the photos that he had posted on the forums and had sent to me about the sturgeon kit. So I picked that up last weekend, the 96 sturgeon. And I got all the tooling and masters and all of that stuff here. So it's just a matter now of setting up for production, which is easier said than done. The way that we decided to offer it, excuse me, at Dave's suggestion, the stern section is going to be completely built out. So all of the linkages and rear control surfaces are already going to be pre-installed with the kit. So it'll be more of a, I don't want to say like a beginner's kit, but it'll be a lot easier for anybody looking to put that kit together. Which obviously there's going to be a price associated with that. But my hope is that this kit will get more people kind of over that hump of, concern about the complexity of building out the boats. But the other thing that I wanted to do, Steve Hodges finished out that Oberon that he's got in the background there. And one thing I thought that was super cool, and I think he touched on this at a past DiveTribe, but I was hoping he would be okay with me sharing out that periscope system. Are you cool with talking to people about that, Steve?
Sure.
Okay, well, let me pull up some pictures here, and you can do a running commentary as I flip through them. It's really cool. So you tell me when you want to switch photos, and I'll just
okay. Well, I mean, that's just the basic scissor lift without the sail. The sail is completely removable. There's a plate on top that is kind of like a guide plate for the masts to help keep them aligned and stuff. And that flexible cable there you see is the actual antenna, the 2.4 gigahertz antenna, which runs up into the communications mast. And as the lift comes up to raise the periscopes, it also pushes on that coax cable that's inside that sleeve and raises that communications mast at the same time the masts are coming up. So it comes up faster and it drops faster so that it's completely hidden when it's bottomed out, and yet it's twice as tall as the rest of everything. So it's pretty slick setup. It's a really cool effect. And that's kind of looking down inside. The flange that was 3D printed to secure the sail. And then I just reinforced it with some fiberglass from the inside. But then I designed and printed some plates to secure the base of that scissor lift to be able to hold it. And it's all removable with screws, like I said. And that's looking from the underside at the scissor lift. The big heavy brass rod you see on the left side of the screen is actually the push rod for the mechanism from the servo. So, and there's the servo. You can see that one servo is pushing on the brass push rod, and at the same time it's pushing on the cable, which is in a sleeve, and it's fixed. So it's basically like a brake cable. And it pushes on the cable at the same time that the masts are coming up, being pushed on that brass push rod.
Hey, what servo are you using there? Did you waterproof a standard servo, or is this a quote unquote waterproof servo?
That is a standard servo that I waterproofed, but it was supposed to have been a 180-degree servo according to Amazon, and it was not. But I converted it to be 180 degrees. It's a simple process of a couple little resistors inside. And then I waterproofed it. It's mounted upside down to boot. So it's also as high as it can get inside the sub without being in the sail. So I've not had any issues with the system. It's not given me any problems at this point in time. So
cool. Yeah. I wish I had a video of, I'd have to dig it up, but the video of it working. So this is the guide, right? Yeah.
That's the guide plate. It's held together with 2 screws, so you can separate it in order to remove. That way you can drop the scissor lift down through the bottom if you need to take it out. Back in that previous photo, the red tube is just a piece of nyrod, flexible nyrod from aircraft push rod use, and the clear tube that comes that's in it is that was the biggest problem that I had to find, was something that was the right diameter to fit up in between the scissor lift frame, but would still fit on the end of the tube and be secure so that it wouldn't come loose for the mast. Okay. And then it ended up being a piece of tubing from an enteral feeding bag for my wife. And it's flexible and soft, so it's fairly pliable, and it worked just perfect. It was exactly what I needed. But I searched and searched trying to find tubing, and it was so much of it was too stiff, wasn't the right diameter, too thick of a wall, etc. But that stuff, I just got to looking at it one day, and I was like, I might give this stuff a try, and it just worked out perfect.
Cool. So, yeah. The whole secret sauce to this is the fact that this communications mast, goes up at a different speed than these other ones. Obviously people have done operational periscopes before, and sort of the standard methodology is to keep them all mounted to a single platform and raise and lower the whole platform. But that doesn't look very realistic. So this is kind of a neat hybrid idea. So, the majority of them move up and down together, but then the one moves at a different pace, basically twice as fast as the other ones and twice the distance. And it makes a huge difference in terms of realism when it operates.
Yeah, I wanted to try to simulate as much as possible the Oberon, the way that would work with the Oberon periscopes and masts. And it was always the tallest thing in the pictures that I saw, just about. So I was like, that thing raises higher. It's a communications antenna, so it's got to be higher, whatever. And so I just tried to commit myself to making it as close as possible, raise at a different rate. And it just worked out. Now, you could do this setup without the 2.4 antenna. It happens to fit in there and work, and it actually is functional in that regard. So,
yeah, no, awesome job. And again, obviously, the advantage of having the antenna in the tallest, obviously, is it increases your operational, range at periscope depth.
Yeah,
big difference.
Steve?
Yeah.
You win the engineering award this year. Yeah.
No.
You do. Don't be humble. Take it.
And that's the plate that attaches to the forward, I guess, pin on the scissor lift. So you just simply engage it into that forward cross member. It's just a carbon fiber rod, and then that pushes, right down there. You can see it, and so that pushes that forward and back to raise and lower that.
It's very clean.
Yep.
Very sanitary. That's beautiful.
All of that is 3D printed, right?
Yes. Now, It could be stiffer if made with like carbon fiber or something of that nature. It could be a little stiffer. You know, it's stout, it's sturdy. I wouldn't, you know, want to bang it against the headliner of your car, taking it in or out or anything like that, obviously. But it's stout, but it could be broken. There's some delicate parts there. You know, it's easy enough to do. So.
And then the other thing I want to make a note, because we do tend to kind of fall down this rabbit hole of 3D printing. Like all of this could be fabricated, right? Like you could use brass square stock to create these cross members and like all of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how my 3D printer works, brass.
Yeah. Yup.
But still, the fact that we have that is just another tool, you know, especially for rapid prototyping.
Exactly. Yeah.
Phenomenal compared to what we had 10 years ago.
Nice work, Steve.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yep, it's beautiful. Like I said, I'm glad you shared that out, and I'm gonna steal it gratefully for that albacore build that I'll be doing later too. And I finished up that flying sub build. Did you guys have a chance to see the video on YouTube of that flying sub?
Yeah, I saw that. Nice.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I actually want to do one now. That is the.
You need to get your Proteus done, Ed.
Focus on your focus.
Awesome.
Working on it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hey,
So the interesting, so I learned a lot during this build, and I was actually commissioned to build another one, Jason, just so you know. I saw him there a minute ago. But I'm going to do things a little differently. Rather than using those bilge pumps, I'm going to go with twin brushless motors and a quart nozzle in the back for both pitch and yaw. The thing about this setup is super simple. So like for anybody that wants simple, that pump system would be the way to go. But the issue is when you are turning, only one of the pumps is going, and so your speed is half. And your pitch authority is halved as well, because the water is only flowing over one diplane. And so I want to kind of do away with that and do more of a standardized setup where both, you know, thrusters are kind of on one channel, putting out equal thrust, and then vector it with these quart nozzles on the back, both horizontally and vertically. That'll put out way more thrust, and then it'll also offer way more, I think, way more control. And if it works out, my hope is to put together a conversion kit for the Mobius model kits, so that people can just buy all the parts and follow what I did to do their own conversions.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because I've got a Proteus for the raffle. So
Yeah, you locked up again.
Lost them.
Yeah. So would that give you the opportunity to have reverse if you did that?
Yeah, hopefully, exactly. So there would be propellers in there, obviously shrouded propellers, and so they would be drawing water from the interior of the boat, and then if you reverse it, it would be pulling water from the back and injecting it through the intakes on the front. It may not be, you know, full speed reverse, but it would give you the opportunity to back out of a sticky spot.
Hey, Bob, you couldn't use the elevators and like you use ailerons and the elevator and turning a plane, you know, tip it with the ailerons and then pull back on the stick to make a turn instead of turning flat?
You could. Now you're starting to talk about a lot of complexity, because obviously you'd be fighting the static stability of the boat. You would have to, I went through this with my son's project for that Millennium Falcon. If you wanted to do that, you would have to ballast the boat so that the center of mass and buoyancy was in the middle of the boat. Otherwise, you know, when you go to bank, the weight and foam would correct, and you'd be fighting that moment. So if you keep it in the middle, you could actually do barrel rolls, which would be, I never watched the show. I don't know if they did barrel rolls underwater or in the air, but no. Yeah, it didn't look like it was a very acrobatic craft, but but in theory you would be able to.
They slammed it into the ocean whenever they would land. They'd go right
You would just dive straight in.
Yeah. Never mind the guy's guts inside him when he hit the water, but
yeah, exactly. But it looked good.
And considering the front of that thing is basically flat, I'm sure there would have been just ever so slight bit of deceleration upon entry.
Right. But the heroes came back every week to fly it again.
Yep, sure.
Bob, did you try, what did you use for controlling it? Just left and right separate channels, or have you tried one of those VTail mixers on it, or?
Yeah, so I ran into this, I think at the last DiveTribe, I think I talked about this. So the challenge is, using those pumps is that reverse isn't reverse. Reverse is just forward more inefficiently. So with like the throttle jockey, for example, where it mixes twin throttles and rudder, if you go hard over left in a normal boat, like say like a Russian Typhoon, it would be full forward on one engine and full reverse on the other. But in this case, when it does that, full forward would be full forward and full reverse is full forward. So nothing happens. It just doesn't turn. Now, Rick, I think, was it Rick? I think had a really, really good idea about putting a diode in line so that the motor voltage could not be reversed on the motor. So if we could use the throttle jockey, you have to put the diodes on the motor so that when it goes to reverse, it would basically be blocked, so to speak. And so that would work. It's not eloquent, it's not ideal. I'm more excited about this idea of like twin brushless motors, forcing water in and through a cord, and then you'd have full forward and full reverse on both sides.
Yeah, well, that VTail mixer incorporates throttle. It ties it into throttle, so you get left and right and throttle. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So you may want to. I don't know if that would be any advantage if you go to the brushless motor arrangement. Then,
Yeah,
anyway.
I'm gonna look at it for sure. Again, the issue is, I guess it would probably work, but the further over, like the harder you wanted to turn, the slower you would go, because it would eventually stop the one motor and then reverse it, which is perhaps what you would want. But in the swimming pool, in practical application, when we were running it, I would just love to have more speed, both in a straight line and throughout the turn, so you could do laps and spirals and all that kind of stuff. So we'll just have to try it and see. It would be easy to add the electronic module afterwards if needed, but I don't think it will be. If I'm lucky, I'm thinking with those quart nozzles, it'll be like a tugboat where that thing will turn almost, on its own axis, so to speak.
But you're going to have a 75 megahertz radio to make it run, though.
Yeah, low frequency, absolutely. Actually, Jason and I were talking about this before. I'm a big advocate of 2.4 gigahertz. Ed was the first one to get me to take that leap, and now I'm a convert, and it makes sense for 90% of the boats, but there's some that just doesn't. Like the Flying Sub or the Disney Nautilus, something that
Proteus.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make much sense, and it wouldn't be any fun to operate those craft. And obviously, it also depends on your operational environment. If you're going to be running around in your swimming pool, it's no fun just poodling around on the surface or just below the surface. So you would want something that would allow you to get under. It's highly frustrating, I guess, to not have a reliable source of new low frequency radios. We've got a big supply of old, new old 72 megahertz, and we're kind of delving into that a little bit to make this work for some people. But I think we checked, and I think we had 14 VEX radios left. So in terms of 75, once those are gone, that's it. And then it's like eBay. That's it. That's the only place we're going to find these things.
I got a quick question comment about radios. So somebody was asking recently on your forums, the Drydocks forums, about whether you allow 72 megahertz at events, specifically Subfest.
Yep.
Because the subcommittee doesn't.
Correct.
And I was joking, but it really got me thinking about it a little bit. So I wrote something about technically the 75 megahertz. They say right on them, surface use only. Well, submarines aren't on the surface. So in some ways, submarines have more in common with aircraft than they do with surface ships.
Yeah, that's true. And you know, the odds of us having to argue with the FCC about this are probably pretty slim.
Yeah.
I guess that the only argument against is I believe 72 megahertz is aircraft use only. So
Yeah.
if you know, technically speaking, we're probably still in violation of that.
You know how, you know, whenever it comes up, some people are perfectly fine with using 72 megahertz and some people are totally opposed. And somebody always points out that, you know, they don't know anybody that flies model airplanes that has used 72 megahertz in the last 10, 15 years, which is certainly true. I mean, I fly model airplanes at a club and nobody, not one person has ever showed up with a 70 megahertz radio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why would you, when the radios are so cheap and reliable and like exponentially more range? And
yeah,
and the big thing is, you know, even if that wasn't the case, to the best of my knowledge and the research that I've done, there isn't anything in terms of an RC airfield within, you know, 10s or 20s or 30s or 40s of miles of our event. So we're not going to be overlapping, you know, on RC model airfields where we're going to smash somebody's aircraft unless they're operating outside of, you know, a venue.
So I'm interested, you other guys, how many of you are opposed to using 72 megahertz radios?
I'm not.
Not at all. And you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking you just need a little time here. I think over time, this whole thing is going to become moot because the FCC, they're not as interested in it surface and aircraft as they are allocating the frequencies for hobby use. And I'm sure if the case, and it's my understanding what I've read in the history, that was done for the hobbyists. It was the hobbyists who had asked for it. But as far as I think, looking at the frequency spectrum charts, that it's, you know, hobby use or whatever term they're using, public use, transmission frequency. And I think it's more of the hobbyists presenting this to the FCC if somebody were to care to do that, with the FCC, hey, at this point, you know, if your aircraft guys agree to it, who cares? And I think time is going to tell because, like I said, these radios, they're not making 75. There's no market for it except for us.
Get my transmitter. Maybe it's in my transmitter box. It's in the trailer.
I reached out actually to a couple of different manufacturers, many of whom are in China, and they're actually open to it, to remanufacturing 75 megahertz radios for us, 75 and 40 megahertz radios for the European market. The issue right now is the availability of electronic components. I'm sure all of you are aware that, you know, circuit boards and all of that kind of thing are in short supply because of COVID and many other, you know, eventualities. The one manufacturer says yes, but it probably won't be 18 to 24 months before we're going to have the capabilities of allocating, you know, additional resources to this, you know, little niche that you've got. The fundamental issue, though, is that even if they had availability right now, the MOQ, the minimum order quantity, is like 500 to 1,000 pieces. And I mean, I don't know if we all want to go together and chip in a few grand, but you know, it's a hard thing, you know, for a company like myself to allocate $50,000 for, you know, a 500 or 1,000 radios to sit on the shelf for potentially, at the rate we're consuming them, you know, 5 to 10 years, maybe. So it'll be interesting. you know, the capability exists. We need to figure it out. What we really need to do is hire like an electrical engineer or something like that.
What about the 72 megahertz?
It's the same thing. You know, nobody's manufacturing those radios anymore. It's the same situation. Yeah,
There's probably a lot more of those available.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure.
Are you still going to be handling the 75 receivers, Bob? Are they going to be a problem down the road? Or?
Yeah, absolutely, they will. I did put my last order in. I think I've got 40 left. Once those are gone, they're gone.
Okay. Better order up some more.
Yeah, I suppose so.
We could always.
Or we're going to have to start swapping receivers around boat to boat every time we want to run one.
That'd be a pain.
Again, Bob can order 1,000 of them, but where are the 1,000 customers to purchase them? That's it. It's all about the market. You have a guy who can make 1 million radios. Think about it. Think about it. 1 million radios. Think they're going to want to invest in 1,000 radios?
Yeah.
It's market. I mean, we want 75, but it's market reality.
Supply and demand, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I had a company out of the UK. This was actually done with Matt Beck. He found a guy over there that had actually gotten far down the path of manufacturing a simple 8-channel low frequency radio, but he could not get parts and he couldn't get support, and he went on to lower hanging fruit. So that died. Even despite my best efforts, I'm like, what can I do to support? Like, do I need to throw money at you? Do I need to throw support at you? Do we need more people? No. So, and speaking of which, did you guys see Matt's post on Facebook lately? He used to be here all the time. He said he's been out on deployment since January, and he's going to be out until next January.
Wow.
I was wondering what happened. I thought maybe we pissed him off. He disappeared like that.
No, he's been gone. You know, so I got to make sure that his products are down off the website, because I'm going to end up with orders and no ability to field them.
Was this the Alan Palmer that you were talking about, Ed?
That's the famous Alan Palmer right there.
Alan, can you speak up? Announce yourself. Say hello to the group. Put him on the spot.
No, can't hear you. You're not muted.
No.
Now you are.
We're in Texas now. It's like, speak up, son.
Yeah, it's not getting over. Can't hear you.
Wake up. I say, wake up. Son.
American Sign Language.
Hey,
got a chat window too.
Hey, Ed.
Yes, sir.
Mike Martin's trying to connect, but his audio is not working.
How are you liking Texas so far, Ed?
I love it.
You know, I said something to my wife about moving out there, and she said, no. I would love to live in Texas. I really would.
And Bob, you chime in too.
I mean, I love it too. We got some weird ass politicians around here, but for the most part, people are
you want
nice,
weird ass
friendly.
Politicians. You want weird ass politicians. Try New York.
No, actually go to Austin and you'll see some weird politicians.
That's a walk in a park in the Bronx, Austin.
How hot is it in Texas right now?
I think it's 98 today.
98.
Oh, that's nice.
But I have to share a picture.
Wait, they're going to tell you it's dry heat.
You know, compared to Florida, it absolutely is.
It is a dry heat. I'm comfortable out there in the shade.
For the last month in Alabama, in North Alabama, where I live, it's been in the 90s for the last month. Next week, it will be 95. And I don't know what the hell is going on. It's a high pressure system that's moved in, and it's not going away anytime soon.
No, we had 104 to 106, and it's expected to stay that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's global warming.
Well, as I tell, if you ask me, do I like Texas? Okay. What I tell them all here is I may not have been born in Texas, but I was born to live in Texas.
There you go.
My answer.
Hey, Texas is a good place. I have a relative that lives in Dallas, and they would never move anywhere else.
Hey, while Alan's here, Alan, you missed the conversation earlier on. So Ed and I were talking. I think regardless, you're going to have a ride out if you want to come to Subfest. I don't think that'll be a problem. Ed is going to be staying in his trailer, and I've got just a little room in Kahata at the only hotel in the entire town. So you may be on the hook for like a hotel room, but between all of the attendees, I don't think you're going to have any problem in catching a ride to and from the event. So if you can manage a place to stay, I think you'll get your butt there and back again.
Yeah, I can get you there and back. Okay, you're just, because I'm in a trailer, my son and his wife will be meeting to stay in a trailer. You'll be on your own for. I was kind of hoping if you could make Josie Ranch. I'm running tomorrow morning. If you can make Josie Ranch, we can firm it up more. And I'll give you the transmitter to my boat, let you run my sub, if you can show up tomorrow morning.
What time is it? Can y'all hear me?
It's 8 o'clock. We start running at Josie Ranch Athletic Complex.
Okay, but 8 a.m.
You know, 8 a.m. to noon, to whenever. I'll give you some stick time on my shark.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'll have to hit you up on that.
Bob, would you put that hotel that I gave you on your website? Because it's a great place and it's only 15 minutes from the venue.
Can you send that to me again? I don't think I have kept that information. I can definitely do that though.
I put it on the web page, and you said something about it, but you didn't mention it in your comments. So I mean, it's a great motel. It's clean and it's cheap. And
you put that where, sorry, on the forums?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'll send it to you again, but let me give you all some advice. If you get motels, go for the government rate, because they never check. They never ask you for any travel orders or anything. They will give it to you for $90 a night.
There you go.
How does that compare with senior discount? Any idea?
It's better than the senior discount. I would say at Hampton Inn, every time I go someplace and I ask for the government rate, and they give you the keyless check-in. You don't have to check in at the front. It's like $92. So just take advantage of it.
Well, you look like you're with the government.
I am. I'm a retired cop.
What he's saying is some of us couldn't pull it off.
Not as well.
Bob looks like a DEA agent, and Ed looks like undercover narcotics.
No. I did my fair share of drugs in the 70s. Enough now.
Oh, listen, I did too, man. If they knew how much drugs I did in the 70s, they would have never hired me.
Most of the 70s is a blank. Yeah, man.
Well, they don't do drugs up in Canada, though, do they, Bob? They just do back bacon.
What are you talking about? It's like Canada's #1 export, marijuana, to you guys. I can't remember what they said, like $40 billion a year or something.
Geez, I must have missed something. I was the designated driver at my bachelor party.
Hey, let me ask Steve a question real quick. What is that boat you had behind you a minute ago? That English boat, is that 3D or what?
Which boat are you talking about?
I think that's Oberon.
The Oberon.
The one right
with
here
the lump on
behind my
the
head.
front.
Is that a OTC or what is that?
OTW Oberon.
OTW.
And then I'm 3D printing the 148 scale Jimmy Carter. That's the next one, the black one in the middle.
Oh, cool.
And then the one in the back behind it is the Typhoon that's going to Vaughn. So that's ready to go.
What class is the Jimmy Carter?
It's a Seawolf class, but it's extended 100 feet. It's got an extension in the middle of it.
Oh, that's right. I'm talking to Steve.
Remember, you got to go bigger now.
That's right.
Actually, I wanted to share another one out. This one is interesting. This is a 3D printed hull, but I printed for the first time. This is
oh wow,
50 some odd inches. This is a 1/32 scale French Arethus.
That's nice.
And this is all resin printed.
And you did that with your resin, not with your string.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So this is not like PLA or ABS. This is like that like printing resin. I love it, man. This stuff sands so nicely. This is basically right out of the printer, one layer of Bondo on the seams and one coat of primer. So
it looks like a 21 in the back, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Actually, the stern is super interesting on this boat, and it's got a really unique propeller too. This will be an ongoing thing. It'll be a complete build, but yeah, so that's going to be fun. And this one has the same dive planes as like the Type 209, where to dive it pushes out one dive plane that's angled down, and then to surface the other side pushes out, which is angled up.
That's weird.
Yeah, it is weird, but I mean,
if you resin print something that big, is it brittle?
Well, it would be if it wasn't like 4 millimeters thick. It's pretty bulletproof as it is.
David Ruiz had talked to a resin manufacturer about this application for resin.
Yep.
And they made some comment about the resin, and over time, just like anybody says, something in the water over time, you're going to have problems without sealing it with something beforehand. I don't know if that's true. It'll be interesting to see. I haven't yet to see anybody print a resin hull and get it wet and see how it does over time. So,
well, I mean, I guess it'll be interesting. I can't see the solid resin being any worse than, like PLA or PETG or anything like that. And again, everybody gets their shorts in a knot about like, water permeability and that kind of thing. But in the grand scheme of things, a couple times a month it goes in the water for half an hour, right? Like it's not like it's living in a lake or a fish tank.
They said something about over time it accumulates, but I don't know anything about it. He would be the one to ask if there's any questions about it. He'd talk to them directly, but they cautioned him on it without sealing it that it could be a problem.
Okay. Well, in this particular case, actually, the entire interior of the boat has a layer of 4-ounce epoxy. And then obviously the outside is going to be painted. So I would say the amount of resin that is actually in contact with the water is pretty limited.
Yeah. It may not be an issue at all. I just love to see somebody do it,
Yeah.
I don't think we'll have a problem with anything outliving us.
Yeah. You guys remember the Baleo and these solid metal guns that were on it? These are the replacements that we got from Shapeways.
Weren't they like 2 pounds total?
Yep, 2 pounds right off center. Yeah. So these weigh like, a couple grams each, and they're way more detailed too.
Yeah.
Have you got that boat sold, Bob, or is that just something you're going to run or what?
No, that was a customer boat got sent in for upgrades. So it's spoken for.
What scale was that?
32nd.
1-to-1. That thing is huge.
Yeah. And then actually, before I forget, the last thing I wanted to talk to you guys or just mention, Jason and I are cleaning out the shop. So we're going to have a ton of stuff that we're going to be liquidating for like pennies on the dollar. Well, maybe not pennies, nickels, dimes on the dollar. Our idea is every business day, first thing in the morning, we're going to post up a new deal. Steve O'Connell grabbed one already. He's not on here right now. But
is the order for sale?
A brand new DigiSound diesel effects unit for like 50% off. But we're gonna, all of this extra stuff that we have is gonna be just like liquidated. So when you get up, check the site. It's on the bargain bin. It's gonna change every day. And if it doesn't sell after a day, I'm gonna drop the price. So
what about the Orca? Is the Orca for sale?
For $10,000, yes.
For God's sake, Bob.
At least he gave a price.
Yeah, he sure did.
Everything's for sale, right?
That's right, for the right price. That's how it works.
Are you gonna bring the Orca to Georgia, Bob?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you damn right. And I'll probably buy it from you too.
Bring your checkbook. Yep.
Hey, Bob, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So I was just given a Angle U177.
You were just given an Angle U177. Okay.
Yeah, I don't actually have it in my possession yet. But I think the David Ruse and I have been chatting about it offline. But it was the gentleman's first submarine that he built. He built it like I think about 2003, 2005. And he completed it. He actually got it into the water, ran it a couple times, and it's been living in his attic ever since.
Okay.
Appearance wise, it looks good, but the dry hull section of it's kind of questionable, and I won't know until I actually get it. But it's obviously going to have older equipment in it. If that dry hull is, let's say, brittle or compromised, does it make more sense putting another dry hull in that boat, or does it make more sense converting it to a cylinder?
So, obviously this is just my opinion, but the modern dry hull boats, I really actually have no problem with. Some boats kind of lend themselves to that sort of design. The older ones, though, I would be concerned about. Now, if he did a really good job about installing the the bulkheads and everything, like if they're fully fiberglassed in, then really the only thing you need to worry about are the seals. Well, actually, just the seals. So all of your linkage seals, your drive shaft seals, and then of course the big plate seals on the top. Regardless, what I would recommend doing is basically gutting it and then reinstalling all of the components again from scratch. If this was his first build, I would imagine, he may have had the best of intentions, but likely there were perhaps things that may not have been done according to current best practices. And it would also, of course, offer you the opportunity to update some of the, modules and that kind of stuff if needed. So I would say take a look at it first. If it's one of those, if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of things. If everything's there and functional, I would run it, as designed. But if you get it and it's just a mess of like spaghetti and cracked seams and all of that stuff, I'd throw a cylinder in it and be done with it.
Okay. Yeah. It's just, I noticed I only have a couple photos of it. Like I said, the exterior of the boat looks nice. He's had it in the water, but the, where that big original plate seal, the main seal goes, there looks like there's cracking, possibly fine cracks between the bolts. And so that was kind of like the first questionable thing I saw. And then I can't tell if he glassed it.
Yeah, the way that those, if I remember correctly, the way that those are built by Angle, especially the old ones, there's actually a steel plate in there on the top that stops any flex from occurring. They really, in typical fashion, the German fashion, they over designed it. So, they're like, oh, if it's 100 feet deep, we need to put a steel plate so this plate doesn't flex. So there's like a 1/8 inch thick steel plate on the top, and then it's fiberglassed and gel coated. So probably I'm thinking it's just the gel coat is cracking, and you could probably just sand it down and use a little glazing putty to fill that back up again. And then you can get new like rubber gasket material, like the 1/8 rubber gasket material, and you just apply that with a silicone bead, and that works, you know, really good. So.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. I found that out the hard way, that they put the steel plate in there, because on my Typhoon build, I'm like, well, this stupid tiny little hole this big, I'm like, I want to open that up so I have better access. And I ended up having to take, you know, like an angle grinder in there and cut out. There's sparks everywhere, and it caught on fire. And yeah, I did it though. Yeah, I opened it up.
It sounds like it was a good time.
It was a good time. Yeah. It was worth it in the end, but man, that was a lot of work. And those angle boats, you know, they're beautiful boats, but so many people fall into that trap of, oh my God, you know, auto hover and individual trim and working periscopes. Oh yeah, this will be a perfect first boat for me. Yeah, no.
And then they use it for a couple of times and sell it.
Or they never finish it. Yeah.
They use it a couple times and give it to a schmuck like me.
Well, that's how it works. Yeah, I'd run it with that dry hull. Take a look at it and see what's in there, and make a determination once you get a hold of it.
Hey Nick, how was that build you were working on?
The Arc Model 7.
Yeah, how was?
Yeah, no, the 7. Yeah, the 7's still sitting there, and I swear I'm gonna finish it.
It looked good.
I think you have that U177. I think you got that for free, and you should give the Arc model to me for free.
Yeah, there's a million hours into that Arc model, and I haven't even gotten to the point of detailing it yet. No, the 7's working good. It's just I got really caught up in when that Ukraine war broke out. I got caught up in trying to doing all kinds of things to try and help every way I can. I'm still actually doing that, so I actually haven't touched the subs probably since March, maybe like mid-March or so. And I'm finally starting to kind of cut back and taper back on helping some friends and stuff in Ukraine. So I'm that's kind of why I'm popping back up out of the woodwork. That Type 7 is going to be I'm going to be jumping right back on that.
Great to hear.
Hey Steve,
Yeah.
Still there? Steve,
Yeah.
when you worked on that Nautilus, the one that had the side pushed in or whatever, did you have trouble mating the top and the bottom? Because where the salon is, it's not perfectly vertical. They both kind of skew out. So I have to either push that in or remake it so that it's straight up and down. Did you have that problem?
On mine, it's the 66-inch.
Yes, that's what I have.
Okay. And it has these metal plates that go around the salon window.
Right.
And it is attached with screws to the bottom. And then I remove the top and it wedges down in between those. And then I put a couple screws in to hold the plates tight on the top after I put the top down on it.
Gotcha.
But there was just a little bit of deformity between the top and the bottom hull. I took a heat gun to it vigorously to try to get alignment better. And finally I got it to the point where everything is aligned well. I had to add some additional brass plates, kind of like the alligator teeth to interlock.
Yeah.
And I ended up removing all the side rakes on it and reattach those to try to get that hull to mate up properly from the top to the bottom. But there was some angle between the top and the bottom around the salon that I had to kind of straighten out.
Yeah.
A little bit. But the pulling the plates in with the screws, it doesn't make any, I mean, you can't even tell.
Okay. Yeah, because I was trying to, I put a threaded rod between the two with two boards and try to pull them together. But then the sides of the submarine deformed a little bit. So I let that go. And what I'm going to do is take your advice with the salon and the metal piece, and I'm going to take the top or the bottom, put it down on glass and make like a flange all the way around so that it's more rigid. and then made it with the top with pins doing the same thing.
I use brass threaded inserts, like 2 millimeter brass threaded inserts, and then some little 2 millimeter flathead hex screws, and you can't even tell they're there, you know?
Yeah.
So that's just coming from somebody that's built, I don't know, 8 or 10 of the 66s and about a bajillion of the 31s. There's a couple of different ways of doing it. Now, the easy way of going about it is to keep the seam as it is, which runs right through the middle of the salon. For those of you who've never seen these 66 Nautilus, and the 31 is the same way. So there's a seam right through the middle. In the 66, the seam is covered by these side keels, the forward and rear side keels.
Right.
What I do in my builds, and this is personal preference because it bothers me to look at this and to see the little gap right here, and then to see screws to hold the front on, because there's always going to be, you know, 1 mil or a ½ mil gap around this salon basal. That's what we call it, salon basal, right here.
Yes.
It'll never fit perfectly flush, and if you've got LED lights, it's gonna irk you to no end, because the light is gonna shine out from behind it if you look at it from the side. So again, it's the easy kind of the better, easier way of doing it is to make that basal, you know, kind of removable to cover up and go with that established seam. But what I did is I split the hull just below the side keels and then down below the blister underneath here. So when that boat is on display or in the water, there is no visible seam on this model except in the back right here.
Gotcha.
So that is just another option I wanted to throw out there. You can split it where this blister mates to the lower hull. That's a 90 degree, or not, well, I mean, it's almost 90 degree, you know, mating. And so there's a seam there anyway, you know, so if there is a little bit of a gap or imperfect alignment, it really doesn't matter. So I would just throw that out there as potentially another option. The other advantage to that is that all of these lights are now part of the upper hull, which have lights here and here and here, and potentially, you know,
so
here anyway.
You don't have to
all of your
anything.
lighting system is enclosed in the upper hull. You're not splitting your light circuit.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, I kept mine with a straight seam, and you can barely see the gap between the top and bottom. It's really not that big a deal. And with the screws holding the metal plate, there's not much light that leaks through behind them. So
okay,
that's what I did. It worked for me.
All right.
2 ways of going about it.
Yep.
Well, I have one challenge for somebody here. It sounds like a job for Ed. I want to see this made into RC. Supercar.
That seems simple enough.
That's a Ray Mason project.
That supercar was submersible.
I would love to see supercar made into RC. That would be great.
What is supercar?
The super
You've got to be about 60 to know what supercar is.
Well, I'm 59 and I've never heard of supercar. So
oh,
it was one of Gary Anderson's first puppet shows on Saturday.
I missed that one, I guess.
It traveled on land and under the sea.
Yeah,
Mike Mercury was the pilot.
It's the same guy that did Stingray. Same guy.
Yep.
Thunderbirds, Fireball, XL5, UFO.
Matthew Beck can do that, and don't forget Skydiver.
Yeah, that was UFO.
Speaking of aquatic cars, Bob, whatever happened to the Lotus Esprit, the James Bond submarine?
Still sitting on the shelf. Yeah, still there. Keep getting these pesky customer builds, you know, those things that pay the bills. And they interrupt all of my personal projects.
How far along did you get it?
Basically to the point where I'm just ready to start installing the electronic guts to it. The hull is done. So I mean, I didn't get the hold downs and stuff like that, but I have the top, the bottom, the dive planes, the quad thrusters, the rudders, all of that was done and ready to go.
3D printed.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, you know, honestly, that was one of my first 3D printed projects. So, I mean, I think if I were to tackle it again, I'd do things maybe a little bit differently, but I mean, it's certainly feasible or functional as it is right now.
How long is it, Bob?
It was 18 inches.
Oh,
it was, what did that work out, like 1/10 scale or something like that, or 1/8 scale? I don't know, something like that.
They recently found that car in a garage somewhere.
They've got a model out I was thinking about getting for the auction. I don't know if it's big enough to RC or not.
I have a plastic model, and then I've also got the die-cast model. They had a die-cast model out.
I think the plastic models are 1/24th. They're pretty small. And the die-cast model is probably 1/18th.
Yeah, it's like 8 inches long or something like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of this stuff.
Go ahead.
A lot of this stuff you find as 3D models, and you can just print it yourself and scale it to any size you need.
Yeah, we're getting to that point. You know, it's this is brave new world, and it's part of the reason that poor, you know, Dave finds himself fish out of the water is he's just kind of decided that you know, that this brave new frontier that's out there is just not something that he's interested in pursuing. So,
I mean, I got my fantasy, which is the skydiver submarine, and by now I actually have the 3D file, so it's a matter of, you know, designing it and then printing it.
Mm-hmm. It's where'd you get those 3D files? Did you make them up? Because I'm looking for something else from Jerry Anderson, and I'm forcing myself to learn Blender to create it myself. There you go.
So there was a guy originally who made the files, and they were totally thin. I mean, he was just a model for display, so he didn't have any width to the wall. So that was a pain.
Right.
There's another guy who actually builds a model in resin, and I was asking him whether he would share the files, but he wouldn't. And the thing is too small. But by now I found actually the files again, redone by somebody else. Just do a search for it.
Right.
It's like, I want to say CG Trader or one of those places, but they're around. You know, it's like it's like $20 or something, and then you have it, and it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I'm wrestling with Blender right now, and
okay, yeah.
You know, it's sculpting ain't my forte. You know, 2D drafting, orthographic views. I'm a trained classical draftsman. But sculpting, that's it. You know, but some of these things you can't get whole sections or anything like that. Especially, you know, a lot of this stuff was lost over time, which is kind of shame. You know, that the supercar or whatnot. Where are the studio drawings for these? Like, I remember years ago, Dave Merriman actually got me the studio drawings from 20th Century Fox for Proteus. You know,
and
so
by the way,
but who has these things? You know, it'd be great to get a hold of them, make them public.
Well, Dave,
you know,
Dave told me one time he wanted to build a 1-to-1 model of the supercar, but I don't know. He may have them. I don't know.
What you could try is, you know, some of these guys who built these things, I mean, the 3D models, you could actually ask them whether they would make it for you. There's a whole bunch of people who are doing the Gary Anderson stuff. And I was once asking one of these guys for a model, and it cost me $100 and I had it. And these guys are good.
That's interesting. Yeah, that might, again, hey, Bob, that's my argument. That's my argument. Like, you know, when people complain about the price of an RC submarine. Now, here, I could spend 300 or 400 hours, you know, trying to learn Blender, getting, you know, good drawings of Skydiver or whatever it is, or Supercar, learning, look at the amount of effort when I could go ahead and pay some guy $100, you know, because that's $300 at 300 hours, I should say, at my labor rate. you know what that costs me, you know, when I can be, you know, doing a side job for a company. So that begs in when people come in there, oh, any one of you guys sitting here who have labored to put one of these things together, how many hours does it take? Crap, I took like almost 4 hours trying to get a proper print done for the window for a rudder frame on Proteus, you know.
Yep.
What to get this
By the way,
thing done.
you shouldn't be using Blender for that kind of stuff. I mean, Blender is a photorealistic tool to make, you know, cool pictures. What I'm using
actually, what I'm learning, Blender is a pretty good solid modeling tool. Plus, they now have a parametric add-on, 3D solid parametric add-on. So I think that's going to be the way. It's the sculpting part, the three-dimensional sculpting part. I'm finding difficult for very strange geometries, like an inlet around. You know, skydivers got some pretty weird geometries.
Yes.
You know, a U.S. nuke sub, what is that, Bob? It's a tail cone, a nose cone, a couple of fins.
I don't know. You're kind of belittling Randy's efforts there, right, Randy?
No, I'm not.
Yes.
I'm not.
I'm taking offense here.
But there's basic geometries there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
A tube with an end cap and a front cap and a little top hat on top. Yeah, I understand.
Hey, Ed, I've been a ham radio guy for 40-something years, and you know, people will come in and complain about, oh, ham radio is so expensive. And you know what we would tell them? If you can't afford the hobby, take up knitting.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to tell you what, guys, I'm going to need to go. I wanted to leave you with one more thing I'm kind of excited about. So I got a guy who was asking me about building him an alpha RC submarine. And I'm super busy right now, but I managed to come across and secure something I'm kind of excited about. It's not super accurate, but it can be tuned up a little bit. So it's amongst many other models, it's a 1/48th scale Russian Akula submarine. If my math is right, it should work out to about 90 inches long.
Good God.
So if this is right here, this is the picture. It's rough, but it's one of only, I think, 3 or 4 produced. This is I think a 48 scale Gato in the front, if that gives you an idea of the size.
Good grief.
Yeah, they're on comparable to the 688.
Yep.
In length and beam, probably even a little fatter, I would think.
300 and depending on if it's a 1, 2, or 3, it's like I think 365 feet.
It's only 90 inches.
Yeah, I'd have to have my 3 sons to pick that thing up for me.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But anyhow, I wanted to leave you with that. I'm talking with a guy right now, and the cool thing about this, I have to say, he's like, I'm a fan of the Russian boats. That might be too big, but I'll tell you what, I'll bankroll it. If you want to build it, I'll buy it, and then we'll sell it when it's done. So that might be really cool too. All right, I need to go. If you guys want to hang around, though, I can hand over the reins to somebody else. You'll have to raise your hand and let me know.
What time is it?
3 o'clock.
4:02 my time.
Yeah,
I gotta go to a grandchild's birthday party.
I got that same issue, Steve.
I just worked it out. A 1/48 Gato is 78 inches long.
There you go. There you go.
Bring that picture back up.
The 688 is 96 inches.
Yeah, that doesn't quite calculate out right. If that's 9 inches, it should only be about 12 inches longer.
Oh man, I don't think that's 72nd scale hull.
That's a big hull. That does look pretty odd.
It's still very big, but yeah.
Yeah.
A 48th Gato Baleo is pretty big.
Well, those of us who own the 688, that's 96 inches at 148. Yeah. So that.
We'll see. That's coming back in the truck with you, Ed, from Carmel, didn't you know?
No problem. I got the room loaded up. If they let us into Carmel when I'm done.
All right. Does anybody? Are we gonna call it here? Or does anybody want to hang around and chit chat?
Take
got
it.
a bolt.
I got to take off, but you guys.
I gotta leave too.
All right. That's the general consensus. All right, guys, have an awesome rest of your weekend.
Thanks very much.
You bet.
I'll get you that hat, Casey.
Hey, yeah. Well, shoot. I was going to. Oh, Steve, are you going to bring that Oberon to Georgia?
The Oberon's headed to Australia, hopefully this Monday.
Is that the same guy that buys all those boats and then turns around and sells them?
No, this guy, he's an avid collector. I've built like 3 or 4 boats for him, including another Oberon, exactly the same hull. So he's going to have an Oberon fleet.
I'd hate to have to pay the shipping on that. My God.
$600.
Ooh.
Yep.
All right, guys. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Steve, for the info on the Nautilus.
Right.
Yeah.